The lesson in this week's Parsha can literally change your outlook on life. Here's what it is. The context is that the Jewish people are standing at the edge of the land. They're ready to go in after 40 years in the desert. Now Moses is giving his 36-day end-of-life speech, telling us everything we need to know before he goes in. And one of the things he tells us, is by the way, you're about to hit a really severe war, like 14 years of war. There's like 7 nations. Their armies are way stronger than you. They have way more weaponry than you. And don't be afraid. And it's like, wait, what? What's going on? What do you mean don't be afraid? You just told us that there's literally something to be terrified of. So first of all, what's amazing is it's not saying you won't be afraid in life. It's saying that when something is as terrifying as a war with armies that are literally bigger than you and have more weapons, do not fear. Now you might think, how cute. God is encouraging and he's like a cheerleader. He says do not fear 100 times over the course of the 5 books of Moses. But Rabbeinu Yonah, who is one of the Rishonim and a cousin of the Ramban, says something amazing in his book, Sha'arei Tshuva. He says that do not fear is not just encouragement, but actually that it's a commandment, like a lo ta'aseh, like a do not do, like one of the 613. He's saying it's a commandment, that you are not actually allowed to hold on to fear. When you experience it, you have to turn to Bitachon. What does that mean? It's like a trust and a security that's beyond the rational. In other words, he says that when you have a huge tsa'ar, a big issue, tsuris, war, you have to think that however close that drama, that problem is to you, that the salvation is even closer, and you do it in 2 steps. He says, 1, envision how God can save you. Come up with all the ways. So he's saying this actually doesn't even apply to war necessarily. It's about every difficulty in our life. He says you haven't had parnasa, you haven't had money or a job in 17 years. Envision the ways that God could give you money. God could give you a job. God could make you win the lottery. You could find money on the street. You could get an inheritance and then rely upon it. In other words, trust in it. In other words, get excited about it. And it's a mitzvah. And that's just so cool, because actually what that does in making it a mitzvah is it explains the spiritual mechanism of why it works. And here's why. You see, if you get merit for a mitzvah, then that merit does something in your spiritual reality. It makes you meritorious of what? A salvation. Therefore, just by having bitachon in the face of scary or difficult things, you are bringing merit into your life, which brings a salvation. Now, let's just translate this into New Age theory or spirituality. Let's see if we can understand it from that perspective too. Get ready. You see, there's an emotional scale. And this scale is based on frequencies. They can measure your emotions in hertz. The lower the emotion, the lower the vibration. And because we're vibrational beings, we attract what resonates with us. So if we are holding in fear, we're on the bottom of the emotional scale, and then we're going to resonate and match with and attract things that are low vibration. But if you transform and transmute that fear into hope, you've climbed halfway up the emotional scale, you're vibrating higher, and then you're going to attract higher vibration things. In other words, you will actually attract better outcomes. And finally, he says the following line, Kfi gdolat hatikva ve'ometz halev, and according to the measure of the greatness of your hope and the strength of your heart, not to let your heart melt when you're feeling fear, betochelet tigdal ma'aleh. In other words, the measurement of the greatness of a soul is the amount of hope and how strong the heart is in the face of difficult or fearful situations. So wow, l'chaim, it's a mitzvah not to fear. The one who's holding all the stars in place and all the planets in perfect rotation is also holding the circumstances of our lives. And Rabbeinu is encouraging us that even when the peril and thing of concern seems close, we must believe the salvation is even closer by, here we go, just remind us of the steps, envisioning it, envisioning how Hashem could save us, what amazing soulmates he can bring to us all, and then relying on it, getting excited about it. Because Hashem HaKol Yachol, and look, after all, it's a mitzvah. Shabbat Shalom.